Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, October 29th, and this is Queer News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It is time to queer up the news. This week, Happening on Television Network will focus on LGBTQ Vote 2020 on all of our shows. And we begin tonight on Queer News Tonight.
Today, we learned that former presidential candidate and U.S. Senator Cory Booker and legendary Queen RuPaul are cousins. Q News Tonight is going to tell you what they said when they found out.
In the big finish, the LGBTQ community finds out tonight why Trump says Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's is going to be canceled. And we laugh, and we laugh.
Happening on Television Network is launching a fun new morning show, Good Morning Gay South Florida. Watch this. It looks like a lot of fun coming Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. Well, good evening again, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, October 29th, and it is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we're going to tell tonight on Queer News Tonight. The world's first live daily queer evening news show, Out of the Closet and Into the Headlines on Q News Tonight. Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. We are live and unedited. This is a live LGBTQ evening news show, so anything can happen. I wish I could tell you what has already happened this evening. We are going to bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. My guest anchor tonight is Tony Lima. He is Chief Operating Officer of Ariana's Center in Trans-Latina, Florida. He is known for living and loving in South Florida. We got to get into that statement. And is a longtime Cuban South Florida LGBTQ activist, advocate, and political operative. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
Also tonight is guest anchor Athena Dion, one of South Florida's brightest and most beloved drag performance entertainers. She is Miami's very own Greek goddess and has dual hosting roles at the famous Our House Wynwood here in South Florida and Summer's Lou La La headlining the Jackie O Resort in Mykonos, Greece. Welcome, Athena.
Thank you, Al.
Well, tonight we are going to bring you the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is certainly diverse, while the LGBTQ community around the world is vast, and we're going to bring you the bullet points of queer news for today, Thursday, October 29th, 2020. We begin by queering up Vote 2020 and reporting LGBTQ Vote 2020, what's at stake for the LGBTQ on November 3rd. Watch this.
For us, by us.
Ariana Center is the only direct service and advocacy organization based in South Florida, led by a trans Latina openly living with HIV. With a mission to uplift and support transgender women of color in Florida, Puerto Rico, and beyond. We provide free mobile HIV testing and match clients to care and prevention, case management to help with name changes, referrals for legal support, and provide overall linkage to medical and mental health care. We also provide emergency safe housing for trans women in distress and those released from incarceration and ICE detention. We provide scholarships for GED and technical school, as well as coaching to help trans women enter the workforce. On the advocacy front, we train trans women of color and LGBTQ people to become activists and help educate elected leaders at all levels of government on issues and policies that are vital to the lives of people of trans experience.
Ariana Center, empoderando a nuestra comunidad transgénero.
Tonight, Happening Out Television Network has a special week focusing on getting out the LGBTQ Vote 2020 and discusses what's at stake for the LGBTQ community on November 3rd. Surveys show that 26% of the LGBTQ community either support Donald Trump or are undecided. 74% of the LGBTQ community support Biden-Harris. And while there are so many issues at stake, we want to ensure we examine how important LGBTQ turnout is going to be for the election of our lifetime. Tonight we have a special guest anchor, Tony Lima, Chief Operating Officer of Ariana Center and Trans Latina Florida, one of America's leading LGBTQ equality rights organizations, especially in the area of minority trans issues. So let's dive right in. Tony, welcome tonight. A big week. We're down to the final hours.
It's absolutely a huge week, Al. We are down to the last few days, and what's important right now is that we continue to turn out the vote. That means call everyone you know, call your family members, talk to your neighbors, and make sure that everyone knows that this is absolutely the election of our lifetime. So much is at stake, so we all need to be out there voting.
I know you have a very significant political experience for the LGBT community, both here in Florida and nationally. How do you think it's gone so far? The support for Biden-Harris, our organization in the LGBTQ community. How do you think we're sitting?
You know, I think what is really telling is the fact that voter turnout already is incredible. Like as of yesterday, we were at more than half of the entire voter turnout in 2016 in this country. Mm-hmm. So what it's telling me, and should be telling all of us, is that people realize there's so much at stake. People realize that this is the election of a lifetime. People realize that they have to be involved. And I think within the LGBTQ community, it's an important time for us to remind everyone that they absolutely have to vote. Their voice has to be heard. A lot of people feel disenfranchised. A lot of people feel like their voice doesn't count. But right now is the test. We need to make sure that our voice counts, and we need to make sure that we're getting out there and voting. And if you can't vote because you don't have the immigration status, go work at a poll. Go support a candidate that supports our issues. It's important that we get out there and all do a little bit of something to make sure that we have a successful election.
You know, it's interesting to me. We're doing this Get Out the Vote campaign on all of our platforms at Happening Out Television Network, and we've had Equality Florida and Save and Forward Miami. It's interesting to me with your representation tonight, specifically in trans issues. Trans is apparently the big wedge issue in politics, especially for the Republicans, the Red, the platform, the White House. So how do you think trans is going to end up in terms of motivating the LGBTQ community to get out for November 3rd?
You know, I think what's important is visibility, right, along with education. So one of my missions with Ariana Center and the rest of our team is to make sure that we're putting a face to what the trans community looks like, especially those that are most marginalized, trans women of color, Latinas, African Americans, Black, Caribbean. So with that said, I feel that it's important for all of us, if we know a trans person, if we've met a trans person, to know that that person is generally marginalized just simply for being who they are. So it's important for us to also lend our voices to helping our trans brothers and sisters with whatever they need. In this case, it means making sure that we all have a voice in this coming election so that we don't have to continue enduring attacks from the current administration.
Well, Tony, we're really happy that you're here with us tonight as anchor at Q News, Queer News Tonight. I know Athena and I are both happy We'll talk another night about protection rights for witches in America, and
We need to bring it to the forefront of the conversation.
Yes, that's right. We'll focus on that too. Whatever the conclusion is, you've got to get out and vote. Voting is so important for November 3rd, and we'll continue to do this all week. So, Tony, let's begin with you, and let's begin in entertainment.
Yeah, it's time to queer up entertainment. Watch Cory Booker and RuPaul's sweet reactions to learning they're cousins. Watch this.
Oh my goodness.
That is Cory Booker.
Yeah.
You and Cory Booker are DNA cousins. Cory was in the first season of Find Your Roots, and of course is a senator from New Jersey.
Yeah.
You and Cory share a long stretch of identical DNA on your first chromosome.
He looks like my kin.
The former presidential candidate, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, and RuPaul Charles are cousins, and they both have nothing but nice things to say about one another. The RuPaul's Drag Race host participated in the latest season of the PBS series Finding Your Roots, which explores the DNA of American culture by analyzing and comparing DNA codes to trace celebrities' connections and ancestry. A deep dive into RuPaul's genetics reveals that he and Booker, who was on season 1 of the series, share a long stretch of identical DNA. RuPaul said, "He looks like my kin. There's a sweetness about him, and I've always loved an intellect that's undeniable." On the Wendy Williams show on Tuesday, Booker said, "I told everybody that would listen in my world about the news. So yeah, my mom knows. I just love RuPaul, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him since the news was revealed. But I was very happy about the news, and I hope that he and I can have a family reunion sometime." The two cousins have even met up before. Last year, Booker, who was running for the Democratic presidential nomination at the time, appeared on the Drag Icons talk show RuPaul.
I would love to know who I'm related to in Washington, to be honest with you guys. I think they can get a DNA sample from my shirt.
Yeah. You beat me to the joke of where they got RuPaul's DNA
from. That's what I want to
Atlanta.
know.
Exactly. You know, how fitting and interesting is this story? RuPaul has become iconic over the last 25 years in our community, and now to be revealed, Cory Booker is going to be a leader in politics in this nation for decades to come. He's already run for president of the United States. There's no reason to believe that he won't be, and he's going to have a very famous cousin visiting the Oval Office someday.
Maybe even holding a seat in cabinet, who knows?
Yeah, right.
And making that connection is so important, you guys. For someone like RuPaul, who, as Al was saying, is a queer icon, to have such a strong connection to this next generation of what will be a strong politician and leader is amazing for all of us, right? Because Cory will not forget that he has a queer drag queen cousin that he has to, at some point or another, uplift, right? So that helps us all.
Exactly. Oh, please, God, I hope I'm related to AOC.
You know who you look like? Never mind. Let's go ahead and queer up the USA. Watch Senator skewer Amy Coney Barrett over homophobic ideology. Watch this.
As Judge Barrett described so-called originalism, it means she's supposed to interpret the Constitution's text and understand it to have the meaning it had when the Constitution was ratified. But interpreting the Constitution in that manner has been used over and over to deny rights to women, to communities of color, and to the LGBTQ individuals, members of our society who had no rights when the Constitution was ratified. Originalism is racist. Originalism is sexist. Originalism is homophobic. For originalists, like Judge Barrett, LGBT stands for let's go back in time, a time when you couldn't marry who you love, when you couldn't serve in the military if you were trans, a time when rights were not extended to gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, or intersex individuals. Originalism is just a fancy word for...
In the time leading up to the final vote of Amy Coney Barrett, a slew of organizations spoke out against Barrett. Monday night, right before the confirmation vote, Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey took to the mic to lay bare exactly what was at stake. It was a historic moment for the LGBTQ community. He said, as Judge Barrett describes so-called originalism, it means she's supposed to interpret the Constitution's text and understand it to have the meaning it had when the Constitution was ratified. But interpreting the Constitution in that manner has been used over and over to deny rights to women, to communities of color, and to the LGBTQ individuals, members of our society who had no rights when the Constitution was ratified. He added from the floor of the Senate, the quote, "Originalism is sexist. Originalism is homophobic. For originalists like Judge Barrett, LGBT stands for let's go back in time. A time when you couldn't marry who you love, a time when you couldn't serve in the military if you were trans, a time when rights were not extended to gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, or intersex individuals. Originalism is just a fancy word for discrimination," end quote. Next week, the Supreme Court will begin to rule on the first of many issues that face the LGBTQ community. With Barrett, Trump now has a 6-3 majority, and with Barrett, originalism is likely to become the rule of law. Queer News Tonight will watch very closely.
You know, it's the quote was worth repeating. It is historic from the standpoint of a U.S. Senator arguing directly against LGBT discrimination in every possible way. And the one shocking thing that this historic moment came is against the acceptance of a Supreme Court justice. So history's made on both sides of the aisle.
It's terrifying. I'll tell you, it's really a scary time when we have to be quoting originalism and really breaking down what it means, because ultimately the senator was right. It's discrimination. It's trying to hold people back. It's trying to make sure that we don't all have the same opportunities. And I think that's one of the scariest things that we're enduring right now as a community. When you consider that there could potentially on the Supreme Court be a rollback on Roe versus Wade, on the workplace protections that we just acquired a few months back, marriage equality as a whole, it's really scary, which is, again, why it's important to vote. We can't necessarily affect what's happening at the Supreme Court level, but those legislators and those senators and everyone in charge that should be there to represent us will make sure that they lift their voices and they fight to make sure that we're all protected. And that's why we need to vote and make sure that our voices are heard also through them.
I'm so tired of this originalism being used as an excuse to be racist or to discriminate. And I think Hillary Clinton said something recently about Judge Barrett, saying that how can she be an originalist? Because when the Constitution was written, women couldn't hold the office, the seat that she's sitting right now.
True.
So it doesn't make any sense. You know, we're living in 2020. We're not in the times that the Constitution was written. Things have changed, and we need to be up with the changes because there's a lot of different people living in this country than that were back when this was written.
Absolutely. Let's continue and queer up gay culture. Grindr has been accused of letting users get away with being racist. Despite recent efforts to promote anti-racism on its platform, Grindr remains a toxic environment for LGBTQ people of color. That allegation, according to Jean Lim, PhD candidate at Australia's Monash University, focusing on sexual racism in dating apps, said research participants have noted that their experiences on Grindr have affected their mental health and sense of belonging. Lim, a gay Asian man, said in a live interview on Australian Broadcasting Corporation's TV broadcast, "There are a lot of times when people like myself, we just don't feel like we should be there. Your white friends are hooking up left and right and center, and you're the only one in your friend group who hasn't had a date or even a hookup in months." In September 2018, Grindr launched its Kinder campaign to encourage a more inclusive environment on the app, featuring an array of photo testimonies and videos about a range of topics, including shaming, body shaming, transphobia, and sexual racism. As a part of their efforts, Grindr also updated its community guidelines to indicate that they would remove any discriminatory statements published on a user's profile. The app also claimed it would also ban anyone found bullying, threatening, or defaming other users. Lim told the national audience that enforcement of Grindr and discrimination and bullying rules hasn't lived up to those expectations. Lim said, quote, "I know of instances where after someone has been reported for racism or even other offenses, they face zero consequences whatsoever. Grindr is not ever incentivized to crack down on these individuals. They only take immediate action against people trying to use their platform to advertise paid services."
That's really interesting. I feel like with everything that's happened over the last several years, when we're all trying to be more inclusive, trying to be more respectful, trying to be more loving, there really isn't room anymore for this concept of no fats, no femmes, no Asians that we would all see back even 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I think it's important that Grindr take on something like this and to have a policy, but if they're not enforcing that policy, it's almost pointless. So I want to make sure I'm actually, after hearing this, I'm going to write a letter. I'm going to try to get in contact with them because we often advertise with them, and maybe with those advertising dollars, make them enforce all of this.
My Grindr clearly states, mask for mascara and you pay for your own Uber, okay? So these are the only things that I'm worried about on that app. Just kidding. I'm glad that we're having this conversation. You know, like they say, internalized racism, this is where it starts from. It's systematic. It's deep within the community. It's deep within the society. And this is just a tiny piece of the pie, of the puzzle that we're looking at. And we need to fix it in order to heal ourselves as a community, totally, as a country.
I cheer the conversation. That's how you start, and that's how you change.
So now it's time to queer up the vote. Biden, in an LGBTQ interview, vows to pass the Equality Act in his first 100 days. Watch this.
This time of real peril, but it's also a time of extraordinary possibilities. And you deserve a partner in the White House to fight with conviction and to win the battles ahead. Together, we'll pass the Equality Act, protect LGBTQ youth, expand access to health care, support LGBTQ workers, win full rights for the transgender community, recommit to ending HIV/AIDS epidemic by 2025, advance the LGBTQ rights around the globe, not just at home.
I love this guy. I love everything he has to say. Joe Biden reconfirmed his pledge to progress LGBTQ equality as soon as he's elected into office. In a virtual appearance at the Human Rights Campaign's United for Equality Live event, Biden spoke about the motivation behind passing the Equality Act, as well as his plans on advancing policies that make our lives and the lives of other marginalized groups better. Biden said, "You deserve a partner in the White House to fight with conviction and win the battles ahead. Together, we'll pass the Equality Act, protect LGBTQ+ youth, expand access to healthcare, support LGBTQ+ workers, win full rights for transgender Americans, recommit to ending the HIV/AIDS epidemic by 2025, advance LGBTQ+ rights around the globe, not just at home." Of course, the Equality Act, if passed, would make it illegal to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, housing, public accommodations, public education, federal funding, credit, the jury system, and other key areas of life. Biden vowed to pass the Equality Act in the first 100 days of office and to focus on the LGBTQ+ people experiencing homelessness, as well as violence against trans women of color.
It's so nice to have somebody in our corner acknowledging that we exist and that our rights exist. And I'm just so happy that he has the platform that he does and that he's going to get elected the President of the United States. That's all I have to say.
We've included his live words from the HRC event, and Tony reports it again in the story. The reason it is important is Vice President Biden said in one paragraph and 4 sentences, he said more for the LGBTQ community than President Trump has done in 4 years.
And just that simple action of really naming all of us, naming our issues, naming the people that are most marginalized is such a heroic act within itself. And it really speaks to the commitment that he has to all of us in our communities. So I'm super excited. And again, I'll say it, you need to go out and vote.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's our headlines today. Next, let's catch up on all the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment we call Quarantine Quickies. There is a lot to discuss during this pandemic, so let's get it right underway.
Quarantine Quickies. There's no way to sugarcoat it. COVID-19 cases are surging. 1 American dies every 107 seconds. The U.S. set a record this week for new coronavirus cases over a 7-day period with more than 500,000 infections. An American is testing positive every 1.2 seconds. Daily deaths are also climbing. One of us is dying every 107 seconds, according to Johns Hopkins data, and daily hospitalizations have been rising steadily for more than a month. from 28,608 on September 20th to more than 44,000 on Tuesday. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers said today, "There's no way to sugarcoat it. We are facing an urgent crisis, and there is an imminent risk to you, your family members, your friends, your neighbors, and the people you care about." As winter approaches, America is facing a crucial fork in the road, said Melissa Nolan, an infectious disease expert and professor at the University of South Carolina. Nolan said, quote, "We might see a larger surge due to the pandemic fatigue Americans are experiencing. Americans are tired of adhering to public health guidelines and getting tested." She repeated the familiar plea of public health experts: masks, social distancing, hand washing, risk mitigation strategies until a vaccine is developed. While the White House's Science Policy Office ranked ending the COVID-19 pandemic amongst President Donald Trump's top achievements, the world isn't buying in. Stock markets around the globe fell sharply Wednesday amid the investor fears that global lockdowns are once again on the horizon. The LGBTQ community is one of the key communities that will be affected by social isolation and what will be next for the management of COVID-19.
You know, it's shocking to me that in the exact same days, not weeks or months, in the exact same days that we're reporting that there is a new infection every 1.2 seconds and a new death every 107 seconds, he is standing up at rallies going, "We are so tired of hearing COVID, 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 COVID." No president of the United States has ever spoken this way before, ever.
And taking credit for ending the pandemic. And as far as we all know, the ones that follow science, the pandemic is far from over. So it just doesn't make sense that he continues to push on all of these fallacies, all of these lies continuously. Again, I've said it 5 times, but it's important that we vote.
Really?
It's important
Vote.
to get everyone
Let's
to vote.
all vote.
Let's just do it.
Vote, vote, vote. He's dangling this cure, this vaccine in front of us as if it's just going to appear if we vote for him. And as you can see, it's been mismanaged from the beginning to the middle to now, and until we change the manager, it's going to continue being mismanaged.
Absolutely a bullseye. And by the way, today was going to be this week was going to be the secret surprise of the vaccine announcement.
I'm still waiting. Maybe it's in the hat. We got to pull it out like a rabbit. I don't know.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's our COVID-19 summary of what we wanted to report today. We also remind you that Happening Out Television Network is broadcasting from our permanent set in partnership with the Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale, Wilton Manors, Florida. We joke, and by the way, look to the left and look to the right of me, and you know we're the gayest place on planet Earth.
What you talking about?
Our support of their Sunday celebration is the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world, every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's live. We encourage you to tune in. Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Watch this.
This is Damian Pardo, and I'm the chair of Forward Miami, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible. Well, we're at that time. We end tonight's broadcast with the big finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Queer News Tonight's The Big Finish. Trump says, vote Biden or there will be, if you vote Biden, there will be no Christmas. Watch this.
If you vote for Biden, it means no kids in school, no graduations, no weddings, no Thanksgiving, no Christmas, and no 4th of July together. Other than that, you have a wonderful life.
What does that even mean? What he's saying is things that we need to do to make sure that people don't continue to die in this country. Not open the schools, not have mass situations where people are together, right? So what does he mean by that? What does Christmas have to do with saving lives?
Tony, you're going to start to try to figure out what Trump said almost 4 years into this, and you're going to finally try to make some logic of it.
I always thought the Grinch was green, not orange. I don't know what happened.
You know, the funniest thing to me about this is he said this yesterday at a rally without drawing the causal link that the no Thanksgiving and the no Christmas, he'll be president of the United States when it happens. It's just lunacy. In the big finish, the sound of elephants smashing pumpkins is oddly satisfying in the time of 2020. Watch this.
I don't know about you guys, but I could listen to this and watch this for days and days and days. It's incredibly satisfying. What are those shows called where people like listen to other folks doing
ASMR.
That's it, ASR. This is like the perfect ASR piece. I'm loving it.
Let me tell you something. With the year we've had, 2020, I want to smash more than just a pumpkin. So I'm glad those elephants are getting out all the aggression that I've held up this whole year, okay?
Would it be wrong of me to say they were orange and they were being crushed? Would that be be wrong?
It's preluding to something else.
Yeah, I'll just stop there on the risk of the Secret Service knocking on my door. In the big finish, this is really cute. A picture shows LGBTQ ingenuity for trick-or-treat and trick-or-treaters for this Halloween. Tony, what do you think?
Adorable. I feel like we're always in charge of figuring everything out that's fun.
I think we got to put those in the bars.
Yeah.
3 open bars. Let's just all line up at the bars. There'll be a bartender at the top, and he'll just pour the shots down that tube.
And actually, it could be a reverse tube, and it could be during a show at our house, and the
money
tip
gun
goes a money gun right down. But it's Halloween 2 days from now. The Wicked Witch of the West here, and the Wicked Witch to the East here, and we do wish everybody a happy Halloween. But please make sure you have a safe experience.
All right, Glinda. That is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Queer News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell for updates, and share this news.
We are literally out of the closet. Tony, you're out of the closet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't let the mustache fool you.
Yeah.
Mine either.
Yeah. Right. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. And this is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the world. But your community needs your support.
You are not alone. We will get through this crisis.
We are here with you. And this is Queer News Tonight.
So thank you for joining us, America. I'm Al Ferguson. And on behalf of Tony Lima and Athena Dion, we will see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night, America, and happy Halloween.
Good night. Happy Halloween.